gals, non-binary pals. Today's video, I'm very excited about the video we're going to be talking about. I think it's really, really great. I've already seen it. But before we get into it, I do want to say, trigger warning, we're going to be talking about BED. We're going to be talking about, disordered eating habits and things like that. So I would strongly advise, if that's something that you maybe struggle with or that you think could be triggering for you, this might not be the video for you, all right? So I just want to make that very, very clear. But with that being said, today's video, we are going to be talking about Julia Renee, and I'm not going to read out the title of the video just yet, but you can read it if you'd like. How I quit my story. So how she quit BED, you know what I'm saying? So I have to be a little bit cryptic there, but I am really, really excited about this video. She goes into a lot of detail and really shares her experience and stuff. And so I really think that it's a really, really interesting video. So let's get into it.
Crazy. Like crazy, motivating.
It's game time and I'm up one. Name something I ain't done. Name a body that's my type. Air Jordan, I'll take flight. I'm next level, I'm franchise. I'm top tier, I'm that guy.
Good morning, buff babes, and welcome back to another video. My name is Julia Renee, and if you don't know me already, I am a wellness bodybuilder, and I'm taking you on my Road to Pro series where I shred down for my national bodybuilding show. So if that's something that interests you, even if it doesn't interest you, hit the subscribe button or I will hunt you down and give you a big hug. I can squeeze really hard. Also,
All right, everyone, you heard her, so make sure you hit that subscribe button, okay?
turn your post notifications on so that you never miss a Road to Pro video. So, today we are doing a very unique kind of video. Usually I'm on here being like crazy and motivating and working out and doing all this fitness stuff. But today I'm actually going to share with you my personal binge eating story, how it all started, how I'm dealing with it now, and what I did to get myself to the point that I am at now. But with that said, I am not a doctor. I just want to share with you what I have done in hopes that somehow it helps you feel a little bit less alone in some way, or gives you some ideas, some encouragement that you can get better and that you can reach your goals even though you might deal with this. Please get help.
So I think that this is really important to talk about this stuff and to have this disclaimer at the start of the video, because one thing when it comes to BED and just disordered eating in general, I think something that I've noticed over the years is everyone, while people's symptoms and what they're going through might be similar, like the actions that they're taking, the reasons why someone is taking those specific actions and the things that they're going through are usually for a very specific reason that isn't the same as other people. So everything that you are going to hear in this video from me and from her, take with a grain of salt and understand that that's not either of us telling you what you should do to get better, or what you should expect moving forward. Everyone is very different. So I just want to make that very, very clear.
If you need help, somebody who, I don't know, somebody who's a doctor or something, because this is something that is very serious and I know can be so debilitating and hard on you mentally. So let's start with my story. So little did I know that my binge eating problem actually started when I was 15. So I am 24 now, and as a 15-year-old, I was a wrestler in high school. So all through high school, I wrestled from my freshman year to my senior year. Just to give you guys an idea about wrestling, it's kind of similar to bodybuilding in the way that you have to diet down, lose weight to compete. So with wrestling, the difference is you're a high schooler and no one really teaches you how to do it properly. So just to give you guys an example, I weigh 155 pounds now, and when I was in high school, I wrestled at the weight class that was 110. So I had to cut weight to get to that weight class. I would weigh in.
So this is this is super crazy to me because, I mean, wrestling is something that, you know, a lot of people do, at least in the States, in high school and stuff. And it's really crazy to me that because they're very strict about the weight, you know, the weight classes. And I understand, right? You have to be in a certain weight class because you don't want to have, you know, kids that are 110 pounds wrestling kids that are 200 pounds. Obviously, that's not fair and that's dangerous. But man, it really just, it seems really dumb and like can be very dangerous to have these kids. Like a lot of them, like no joke, they cut weight and they'll cut like 20 pounds in a week, maybe even less, right? And like these are kids that they're not like really overweight. They're cutting like 20 pounds of, a lot of times it's water weight, maybe a little bit of fat in like a really short amount of time. And I'm like, man, it almost makes me feel like, I don't know what the course of action would be, but it's like, it seems like having weight classes in high school, it just, I don't know. It just seems, I don't know. I'm not someone that knows much about this stuff, but like hearing her story and like I've talked to other friends that have been in wrestling, a lot of the stuff they tell me they do, oof.
And if I weighed 110 or lower, I was allowed to compete into the tournament. So I look back on that now and I'm like, dang, that is a very stressful thing for a 15-year-old to have to do or to have to deal with. I love wrestling. I loved it, and it has made me a lot of who I am today, and I would never replace it for anything. But because we're so young and we didn't know how to properly diet to get to these weight loss goals to compete, we did it in the most extreme ways. So just to give you guys some example, some people, even me included, I would wrap myself in like the ceiling plastic
Saran
wrap. I would put on 2 layers of sweats and 2 hoodies, and I would go running in the summer so that I would drop weight, which is basically just water weight, to make weight. We would spit in water bottles because if you fill, fun fact, if you fill a water bottle with spit, you lose a pound. So,
okay, so I want to make it very clear, don't do this. Okay? Please do not do this. If your goal is to lose fat and lose weight, this is not the way to go about it. And I know that she's not promoting it, but I just want to make it very clear. This is incredibly dangerous, and it really can lead to some very serious consequences. So please don't think to yourself, maybe that's a good idea. You do not. Okay, I want to make this very clear. If it's hot outside, don't put on a hoodie to run, okay? Don't do it. If it's hot outside, you don't need to make yourself sweat more. It doesn't, that water, or that weight that you're losing, it truly is just water that will come back the second you drink some water. So it's not worth it. I know that it can be fun to see how much weight you lose in a run. I get it, but it's not worth it, all right? When I see people running outside in hoodies, I'm just like, and it's hot outside, right? I live in San Diego. It's hot here. I'm like, oh, you don't need to do that.
Things like this, wrestlers would take laxatives so that they would lose weight, like very extreme and just unhealthy ways to lose weight because we weren't taught properly. So because of this, I was obviously extremely hungry. There was days where I would go sit in the lunchroom and everyone would eat and I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't eat for the whole day, and I would just take a sip of water and then I would spit it out. Like, that's just insane for a 15-year-old. And I didn't think anything of it because this is kind of just my life. And I loved competing, and I thought that this is what you just had to do. I saw the guys around me doing it, my teammates, and I just thought this is what you have to do in order to, reach your goal. So you can imagine how that affected me, growing up. When I would weigh in for a tournament, I would make weight, then I would go run to my mom, who was always in the stands with me, and she would have food for me. And I was just so hungry because I was doing one or multiple of the things I was talking about before to lose weight, or I wasn't eating, or I didn't eat that whole day, and I would eat everything in sight because I was depleting myself so much to make weight and then I would make weight, and then my survival instincts, which we will go into a little bit later, would kick in and want me to eat everything in sight, when really...
And this is crazy because like this is so common in so much of this stuff. Like you hear about it, like MMA fighters, like they fight at 150 pounds, but their walking around weight is 180 pounds, and it's like they literally are cutting 30 pounds, and like they lose a little bit of fat in their training camps and stuff, I'm sure, but a good majority of that weight that they are getting rid of is just like water weight that is going to come back. That's why when they fight, when you watch an MMA fighter fighting, a lot of times if they were to weigh themselves, they weigh much higher than what their weight class says they would, because they literally, right when they're done with their weigh-in, they go and eat a ton of food, drink a ton of water, and like rehydrate. And again, this is how we see where it connects to, some very bad habits that follow her along for the rest of her life,
I could have probably went away with eating like a peanut butter sandwich and drinking a little bit of Gatorade, and I would have been satiated. But because my survival instincts were on high alert, I felt like I needed to eat everything in sight because my body didn't know when I was going to get food again. While I was also dieting like that in high school, I was also training pretty insane. So I was running cross country in the morning at like 5 a.m. I would go into weightlifting. I would have a weightlifting period with very high intensity weightlifting. And then afterwards, I would have actual wrestling practice. And on some days, I would actually go and have an additional wrestling practice after that with a female coach that they had to bring in for me because I was the only female on the team. Let's fast forward now to when I was out of wrestling. So I was 18, graduated high school, decided that wrestling wasn't something that I, wanted to pursue. I actually went into doing hair and to be a hairstylist. And if any of you guys know anything about being a hairstylist, those people don't eat. They are on their feet all day, every day. During that time, I didn't have the healthiest habits. So when I did actually get food, I would eat crap food. I would go on coffee all day. There was days that I didn't even drink water, and I'm not even exaggerating. So without even knowing it, I was further putting myself into a hole.
Yeah, and like it is crazy. A lot of people in chat are saying she looks so different. Yeah, she definitely looks way different there. But it's interesting because a lot of people fall in this trap or in this hole of like, okay, I'm at work, and then so they this is something that a lot of people like that are overweight as well struggle with. Obviously, I don't think she ever really got super overweight or anything, but a lot of people that are overweight struggle with this. It's this weird, like, I don't maybe a paradigm, but it's we work these jobs that maybe don't allow us to eat while we're at work or whatever reason, right? For being a hairdresser or whatever. And then so when we're off work, we almost feel like we need to eat something that is very substantial and has a lot of calories in it. And so then it's really hard for us because then we're like, wait, I don't understand why I'm gaining weight, or I don't understand why I'm not losing weight, because all day long I don't eat anything and I only eat once or twice a day. But a lot of times it ends up being these gigantic meals because we have gone all day without eating, right? And then again, that just further embeds that feeling of like not eating during the whole day, not eating for an extended period of time, and then having huge, gigantic meal, right? That's why. And again, I'm not saying like that's some people like to do intermittent fasting. Some people like to do OMAD, which is 1 meal a day, and it does work for some people. But for a lot of people that have these struggles with food, that have, maybe binge eating tendencies, it's probably not the best thing to do.
Now let's fast forward to current time. I am 24 now, and I'm a bodybuilder. And once I got into bodybuilding and actually started cutting down to compete, I started realizing how similar it was to wrestling. But what actually made me notice how similar it was is that I started binge eating again. And I didn't even know I had a problem at the time when I started competing. I didn't know at all. I think I've known for about a little bit less than a year now. That I just didn't think that this was something that could be classified as a problem because not that many people talk about it. It's a very uncomfortable topic to talk about. So once I started bodybuilding, obviously I started getting depleted and going to extremes to get to the physique I have. You guys know that I do this and this is something that I love and I'm not going to stop doing anytime soon. So this kind of leads me into why is binge eating so common in bodybuilding? And it comes down to survival instincts. Your body gets pushed to a level that it's not supposed to go to, that is not healthy, that is not sustainable. So what does your body do? It freaks out, goes into survival mode and starts thinking, oh my God, we are never gonna eat again. So once you do get food, you eat past the point of being satisfied. When I was prepping for my
Yeah, that is why, like, getting so lean, like, there's a difference between losing weight and then getting lean for a show. Like, getting lean for a show is another level. And unless you've experienced it, like I did the one show, right? I did one show, I got to 180 pounds. That's about 30 pounds under what I would consider my normal weight. You can call it set point or whatever. I weigh like 210 now, and that's pretty much where I stay around, usually plus or minus maybe 5 pounds. And so I got pretty lean for myself. And turn off the alerts. Whoopsies. But I got pretty lean for myself, and you are at another level because to get that lean, you literally have, like, at least for me, everyone's a little bit different, and maybe some people can handle bodybuilding and it doesn't have a negative effect on you or anything like that. But for me, your whole day and every waking moment is filled with, when do I have my next meal? What should I have for my next meal? What should I eat? It completely takes over everything that's going on in your head. It really does. For me, it did, at least. Again, I can't speak for everybody. And for a lot of other people that I've spoken to, that seems to be the case, right? And so that's why I'm not saying nobody can do bodybuilding, but especially, I know I'm going on a tangent now, but especially if you are someone that has struggled with your weight in the past and you've lost a massive amount of weight, really, 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 really think about deciding to do a physique show, because the level of leanness that you need to get to is much different than a healthy weight, okay? Bodybuild lean is not healthy weight. It's much further past that.
My first show that never happened, it was during COVID. So it was March 2020 and we went straight into lockdown and I was 3 weeks out from my show. This is when I first started realizing that my binge eating might actually be a problem. I was in a high stress situation like all of you, I assume, are. My dad was going through a lot, not only with himself, but his business, and it makes me want to cry just talking about it, but I won't. Sorry. Our family was going through a lot during that time, and I took a lot of it on me, which I am happy to do. But because of this, it started my binge eating flaring up again. And at the time, remember, I didn't know that this was a problem. So I was getting very stressed, anxious. I was getting sad and scared for my family. And I was turning to food each time. And that's when the binge eating started happening a lot. I was eating past the point of being satisfied. I finally realized, after doing a lot of research and listening to a bunch of people that have dealt with it, that this is something that I actually struggle with. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh my God. Because the first things that I started thinking was, I can never compete again. I love competing so much, and I thought that I wasn't gonna be able to compete again. And that thought hurt more than the binge eating actually did.
Now, I don't want to undermine what she's saying, but for a lot of people, that might be the reality that you have to face. Like, you might not compete ever again. I'm not saying her. I'm sure she can figure it out. But like, for a lot of people, competing is not a good idea if you struggle with BED. It's just not. Like, that's just the honest truth. Like, yes, you can get over it, but then continually especially if you're competing frequently, continually forcing your body to that level of leanness while you are struggling with this thing is just a recipe for disaster. Again, I'm not saying she can't do it. She can do whatever she feels like. But I'm just saying for those of you out there that might be feeling the same way, you might not be able to do that. That's all I'm saying.
So during that time, it was really hard for me to actually pick another show to do because I was like, I don't know if I can even do it. I felt so, I guess, alone, ashamed because I didn't tell anybody about it.
And the other thing that I do want to say is say she does try to compete again and she's not able to, or you're someone that is struggling with competing or whatever. Like, you shouldn't feel bad about that. Like, I think you can lift and enjoy fitness and never compete and be completely fulfilled. Like, there is absolutely no reason that you have to compete. If you enjoy fitness, you can enjoy fitness. You don't have to do bodybuilding shows or physique shows or anything like that, right? I think that's really important. A lot of people that get into fitness, they feel like they almost have to compete. It's not. It's absolutely not necessary. And there are people that have been lifting and into fitness their entire life that have never competed and stepped on stage, and that doesn't make them any less of bodybuilder, right? Like, I personally don't think that you're only a bodybuilder if you step on stage. You can call yourself a bodybuilder and never step on stage, in my opinion.
Because I thought, oh my God, like, I have a problem with eating too much food. It sounds ridiculous. And okay, we're better. Try to get through the story part. So
Rachel in my chat says, John does not know what to do when people cry. I mean, being honest, and like, this is a great story and I feel it, but I've always thought it's funny when it's a pre-edited video and people keep the crying in, because I'm like, you could have cut it out. But I mean, hey, it makes the story more intense, but that's where my mind goes. So I'm sorry if I don't have the correct reaction when I see people crying on video. I'm always just like, oh, well, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I could be wrong, and I'm not trying to call anybody out, all right?
at this time, I really thought that I was going to have to stop competing. My first thought was, how could I possibly be successful bodybuilder if I can't control myself around food and in certain situations? So immediately I started going into kind of like, what am I going to do about this? And that's when I started reading books, educating myself, journaling more than I ever have, journaling every single crazy little thought that went into my mind. I started being more open about it on social media, and it was crazy because once I did, so many people started saying, oh my God, I deal with this too. And it was like, oh my God, I'm not alone. It's way more common than we think. So one of my friends.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest problems is that, like, BED is so common in bodybuilding. Like, so common.
Told me something that completely changed how I thought about binge eating and bodybuilding. So I told her, I said, I don't know if I am going to be able to compete anymore. How can I possibly compete when this is something that I struggle with? Should I just give it up? And she said, wouldn't that just be putting a Band-Aid over the wound? And I thought about it and I was like, it probably would be, because.
Okay, so again, I'm just being honest and sharing my opinions. So while I can see how that can be helpful, but there are people that I think that it's not putting a Band-Aid over a wound. It's like not forcing yourself over to a cliff, right? Like if you know that doing this thing gets you very near this very dangerous cliff that sometimes you seem to fall over, forcing yourself there to see if you don't fall over for a lot of people might not be a good idea. You know, so I don't think, again, it makes you weak by being like, hey, I decided that I'm not going to compete in bodybuilding because it triggers my, you know, my BED or my overeating or whatever it might be. Like, I don't think that makes you a failure is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that she's wrong, but if you do decide not to compete, that doesn't mean that you're a failure. It means you understand that this is not a good thing to do to your body. Maybe at the present moment, maybe forever, I don't know. But I don't want people to think, oh man, I decided not to compete, now I'm a failure and I let the BED win. It's not, I don't think that it's that cut and dry.
Instead of putting myself in the situation to challenge myself and to be better and to work on this, I would just be avoiding it. And I'm the type of person that I like to be challenged. That's one of the biggest reasons why I compete, is because I like to push myself to the limit to see what I can do, where I can take myself mentally and where I can take my body. And by me just giving it up because I have this problem, then it gave me permission to just say that this is how my life is going to be. You know, binge eating can take bodybuilding away from me. And once I thought about that, I was like, hell to the no. I bought books. The first book that I bought was the Never Binge Again book, and I'll pop it up on the screen. And then after I read that, I read it again. And then the second book I bought was Brain Over Binge, and I'll pop it up on the screen too. And that's the one that I'm currently reading, and I'm reading it very slowly and taking notes on it. So I have been studying, practicing, testing, trying so many things to try and solve this issue that I have, which is really just a bad habit that I have developed since I was 15. So this kind of brings me into the next chapter of the story, is how do we stop? How do we stop this seemingly impossible habit that we have created? Because that's all it is. It's a habit that we have created.
And again, I want to make it very clear, like I said, I'm not saying that she can't do what she's doing. I'm not saying that that doesn't work. Again, I tried to say it at the beginning of the video. Like, what worked for her might not work for you. What worked for me might not work for you. I'm not saying that what she's doing is wrong. I'm just saying that if you don't go down that road, it doesn't mean that you are failing. I personally don't believe that, right? If you're like, I've seen that going down this road is causing me a lot of pain, it doesn't mean that you're like giving up on yourself, at least in my opinion, to not go down that road, even if it's for a year or for however long the amount of time it might take to deal with that thing, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with being like, okay, I'm going down this road and I'm seeing problems, so then I'm going to like say what she's doing. I'm going to read this book, I'm going to go over, I'm going to figure things out, and then maybe try and go down that road once you're better equipped, right? Think of it as a video game. If you try to go down that road and you're level 5 and you get murked the freaking first hit that you take, probably should wait a little bit until you advance a little bit in the video game. Maybe level 20, you can go down that road and see how well you do. You know, again, different strokes for different folks.
Just like anything else. Remember when you were trying to get into fitness and you were trying to get yourself to go to the gym? How difficult was it to get yourself to get on the habit of going to the gym? Now look at you. You can't go a day without going to the gym. You feel lost without going to the gym because you have made a habit to go to the gym. Our brain does two different things with habits. It creates good habits that are going to be good for our well-being and make our lives better. And then we also make bad habits just as easy as we can make the good habit. And the first key for me to figuring out how to stop was really understanding how my brain worked, because it put it in such simple terms that it was like, duh, I can do this. So you've heard me talk about this before if you've been on my channel, but the biggest thing that you need to realize is that this part of you, so what I want you guys to do is imagine Your brain is in two parts. That's four. Two. The human brain and the animal brain. The human brain is your true self. This is the true you. This is the way more developed part of your brain, the newer part of your brain. The animal brain is the old, instinctual part of your brain. This is the part that doesn't know what's best for you, doesn't want what's best for you.
I think I only have an animal brain, y'all.
It's just there for survival and for the habit that we have created. Have you ever been either wanting to binge or you have binged and you feel like you have no control? You do. You have complete control. It just seems very difficult because the animal part of your brain is screaming at you, telling you that you need this because it has done it time and time again, and it'll bring you comfort and it'll make you happier.
I think my animal brain would be more like a hippopotamus than a wolf, to be honest.
And that's never ever the case. If we think about the two parts of the brain, the human brain is actually the part of your brain that can make the decision, that can go to the fast food place, that can open the fridge. And the animal brain, all it can do is nudge you. Even though these nudges seem so strong and irresistible, you have the control. You just feel like you can't. So now, what do we do with this information? So you separated the two parts of the brain, but how do we actually put this into action? So I'll give you an example. This is what happens to me whenever I feel the need to binge. So say that
Okay, so before we get into like the advice thing, again, I know I always do this, but it's very important to me, okay? Understand this is what helped her. Do not take this as advice that you need to take and that should work for you, because everyone is very different, okay? And the things that she explains here, while there's some things that make sense and like that, you know, could be worth like looking into for yourself, there are going to be some things that I know, because I've seen this video already. If you have been struggling with BED for a long time, it just might not. It's not going to be that simple, and there's going to be a lot more work that has to happen, right? And so I just want to, you know, give you, if you are someone that struggles with it and you watch this and you feel like there's no way, or you feel like that's not you, it's okay to feel that way, because this isn't for everybody, okay? I just wanted to make that very clear before we get into the actual like advice part, because normally in my videos I never go there because I am not someone that can. I am not a professional in that way, right? I've struggled with it in the past and I was able to get through it in my own way, but I would never tell someone this is what you need to do to get over it, okay? So I just want to make that very clear before we get into this part of the video, all right?
I gain 2 pounds just like out of nowhere. I'm following my meal plan and then I just gained 2 pounds. And then now I start thinking, oh my God, you know, I'm gaining weight. I'm not going to be ready for the show. And these thoughts start to spiral down and down until you're in a deep, dark hole. And then you think, okay, well, since I'm not going to be ready anyways, I might as well just binge. And that doesn't make any sense, because that's just putting you deeper into the hole that you already feel like you're in. So when those thoughts start to arise, what I do is I think of them as the human brain and the animal brain. So the animal brain is telling me like, yeah, binge, that'll make it better. You've done this before, you know, you're not going to be ready anyways. So come on, like just go for it. And my human brain is over here going, Julia, that's not what you want. Your goal is to step on stage and have the best physique that you possibly can. And this is your time of growth. That's not aligning with your goals. And then the animal brain's like, shut up. What are you talking about? This is the habit that we've created. This is what we do when Julia gets upset. So one of the biggest things that most of us do is.
So the way I think of that whole analogy, I'm not a whole animal human brain person. That analogy just doesn't speak to me a lot, to be honest. I've talked about this a lot. Is like, instead of like, it's the all or nothing mentality that a lot of us have, and that's why I try and talk about it so much. Is like, if you end up eating something quote unquote bad or more than you should have, or whatever thing you want to use. I always say, like, a lot of us think, oh, I ate one bad thing, so I might as well have all the bad things in the world. Instead of looking at it as all or nothing, be like, okay, I had that one thing, let's move on. Like, it's not the end of the world, and then try and move on from there, right? Again, that's just what works for me. If the whole animal brain, human brain thing works for you, that's totally cool.
When the animal brain and the human brain are talking to us is that we get super emotional about what's happening. So you're having these fights in your brain over what decision you need to make, and then you're getting upset because you're thinking these things. You're getting upset at yourself for even thinking about binging. You're getting upset at yourself because you're putting yourself down. So because we are reacting so emotionally to the feelings that
Hey, what's up to all of the raiders? I appreciate you being here. Sets and Reps, thank you so much for raiding the channel. My name is John. I lost 100 and something or other pounds, and come on Twitch. We have a good time. We talk about things. Right now, we're currently talking about a video about this young woman who is a bodybuilder who's talking about binge eating. So we talk about that a lot on the channel. So a little bit of a trigger warning: if you do struggle with binge eating, you might not want to watch this this video because it might be a little bit triggering for you. But I appreciate it. Thank y'all for being here, and we're gonna get back into the video. All right? Thank y'all.
we're having, it is actually fueling the binge eating more. It is making the fire bigger and bigger and bigger. What if, instead of that, you just talk to them like, meh, whatevs. I'm telling you, your reaction to it is going to be so much better. So instead of freaking out like, oh my God, we might binge. Oh, what are we gonna do? Talk to them, hear the animal brain saying all of these negative things about you, telling you to binge, telling you that you're not gonna reach your goal anyway, you might as well just binge eat. It'll make you feel better. Instead of freaking out to that, just listen to it. Be like, I hear you, but that's really not how I want to be today. The more emotionally you react to your binge eating, the more likely you're going to binge. Now, you also might be thinking during this time, I have tried everything.
And I would say, like, I agree with that, and I would say even more so afterwards too, right? So like even after that that episode takes place, the more emotional you act to it and like treat yourself bad. A lot of people beat themselves up a lot, right? Like this is the only way I can explain it is like for me, I would be like, oh, I binged, so I'm not going to eat anything the next day, or I'm really going to restrict a lot the next day because I did bad and I did a bad thing and I'm a bad person, bad, right? And then like I tried to punish myself, and then I would punish myself and punish myself and punish myself, eat really low calories, really low calories, and then what did that do? It just caused me to, oh, it's been 4 days and I binged again, right? It was a cycle that I again, with habits and stuff, I like that she's talking a lot about habits because I think that plays a really big role in binging for a lot of people, is like we just create these loops, these habits in our brains, in our heads. And that's exactly what was happening to me. So you have to give yourself grace and like be kind to yourself if you do it. Again, not to a point where you're like, oh, it's fine, might as well keep doing that, right? Obviously there's a difference. Like, okay, that was not what I wanted to do, but there's no reason to beat yourself up about it because the deed has been done, right? The deed has been done. There's no reason to be like, you need to punish yourself, because that's not going to help anybody. It's only going to hurt you, right?
And nothing works. And I feel like I cannot control this habit. Now, neuroplasticity shows that you can change it. We can change really anything about us that we want. You just have to be willing to put in the work every day to do it. And if it's something that you really want, you can do it. So neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to rewire itself. Just like how you have wired yourself to go to the gym every day, we have wired ourselves to binge eat. So what we have created is a binge eating wiring problem. So this is basically just a harmful condition that develops due to a repeated destructive action of binge eating. So on the screen, I'm going to put up a little example that might.
So again, I want to make it like, so this is, I don't know, maybe it's just because I've been doing this a long time and like I've had a lot of people come after me when I use certain words and phrases. But a lot of times when I talk about this stuff in videos, I really try and make sure that I don't say we and like us and all of us, because everyone is different. So like, and I'm not saying that what she is saying isn't true for her and probably for a lot of other people. Like, I'm sure it is. Obviously I don't think she's lying, but again, it's not for everybody. Right. And so that's why I try not to say like, this is what we need to do, because what worked for me might not work for you. And what worked for her might not work for you. So again, it's just really important to keep that in the back of your head.
Might help explain this a little bit better. So on the left side, you have the neurons in your brain. On the right side, you have habits. So say the first time you binge, these wires are kind of far apart. They haven't really created a connection yet. But the third time you binge, they get a little bit closer. The sixth time that you binge, they get a little bit closer. And by the 10th time that you binge, the wiring has created a connection. So now it is officially a habit in your body. So that's why it seems so impossible to not binge when the cravings come, because you have made it a habit to do so time and time again. So what we really have created is a habit of binge eating. So there's 3 different points to this. There's first, the habit of excess. We made our brain dependent on an excessive amount of food. That's why when you binge, you eat past the point of being satisfied, and then you're confused on, why did I do that? Like, I didn't even need to eat that much. And then you feel guilt, shame, regret, all of these things afterwards. The second is the habit of pleasure. Binge eating activates a pleasure process in the brain, which rewards us. And it does this by releasing dopamine, serotonin, and it makes your body dependent on the temporary pleasure effects that binge eating has. So not only are you craving the food, the action, but you're creating the pleasure that comes with it. And the last one is the habit of impulsivity. A lot of people that struggle with binge eating are actually naturally more impulsive people, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But because of this, the neural pathway is strengthened even more. So now, with telling you guys all of this information is stuff that I do every single day. I read about it, I write about it, I write about how I'm feeling that day, all these emotions that I am feeling, and I'm constantly learning about how my brain works so that I can better understand how to stop this habit. And I can tell you now that I haven't had a binge. I don't even know how long. I've maybe eaten like little things that were off my plan, as you guys saw in one of the previous videos, but I haven't binge ate. So by doing all of this stuff, it has really helped me understand what is going on upstairs so that I can better show up for myself. So if I'm going to give you any tips to help yourself start to heal, is 1, separate the animal brain and the human brain. 2, know that it is a bad habit that you have created and that you do have the control to create a different neural pathway. 3rd, don't react so emotionally to it when it starts building up. Next,
So a lot of the stuff that she said, I agree with. I kind of wanted to have like her explain a lot of this stuff before I kept interrupting her, because I did that enough earlier in the video. So I think that one thing that's important is, if you are actually really struggling with BED and you feel like it's taking over your life, there's nothing wrong with actually like going to see a therapist, right? And actually talking to someone about that, instead of like, books can help, but they're never, ever, ever going to be a replacement for therapy. I understand not a lot of people can afford therapists, and like, I'm sure you can figure stuff out, but like, there's nothing wrong with going to see a therapist. And 2, again, I know that I've said this a million times, but this obviously worked for her. But like the thing that I am disagreeing with the most is like the whole don't act negatively, because for me, again, this is why I'm saying everyone is different. Like for me, the BED and like the struggle that I had, it was like this numbness that would take over my body. And so there was no shame or anything before it happened. I didn't care, you know, like there was no, I could care less what I did. I didn't care. I don't know. I did not care about what was going on. I didn't feel I wasn't scared. I wasn't upset with myself that maybe I was going to binge. I felt nothing before it happened and during. I felt out of control, but I felt like there was no, at least in my recollection, right? I don't remember ever feeling anything until afterwards, and then I felt bad, and then I felt like I had to fix things, and then I felt like I was a terrible person, and yada, 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 right? And so again, that's why I've tried to make it very clear that while we might disagree on certain things, I'm not saying that this information is bad. Again, it's helped her. And I think that it's interesting. That's why I talk about this so much, is like BED and binge eating, not everyone, so many people struggle with it. And the reason that I think it's so hard, and it's been so many people have like talked about it, and it's not like a one size fits all, like fix, you know, for everybody, is because it's so different for everybody. Because like what she's explaining here, I didn't feel that way when I was struggling with it, you know? So it's just interesting to me.
Gentle with yourself. This is a difficult process. You are going to try again and again and again, and you are not going to get it every single time. But the more times that you practice, show up for yourself over and over and over, the better off you are going to be at getting better. And lastly, educate yourself. And I know this is a really different kind of video, but I hope that this helps somebody out there. And if you are...
So I don't know, when she says educate yourself, and she doesn't really kind of explain, but I think that that's actually a really good tip. And like that was something that helped me a lot, was learning about nutrition and about calories and about, you know, macros and all of that stuff, and understanding that stuff really helped me make better decisions, right? And so I fully agree with that one. Like truly educate yourself about nutrition, like, because for me, one of the things that educating myself helped me realize was that I was eating way too little. Like way too little on a daily basis, thinking I was doing the right thing, thinking this is what I need to do to get my goals, whatever, right? Like, and then educating myself and realizing that I was under eating severely every day. And that was a big reason that was causing me to struggle with this thing. It was a huge deal. So I 100,000% agree with educating yourself. I'm not sure if she's talking about educating yourself about BED and about why you're doing it, which again, I wouldn't say that I don't agree with that. Of course I agree with that, but educating yourself about nutrition is absolutely can be a game changer, and it was for me.
If you're watching, whoever you are, it gets better. You have the control. Only you can undo this habit that you've created. And I want you to be kind to yourself, be compassionate, and know that you are never alone. And if you ever need anything from me, my voice is getting so high. I am always here for you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. The next one won't be so sad and crazy, but I love you so much, and you are more powerful than you think. Bye.
Alrighty, so to end the video, there's a couple things that I want to say, because again, while of course I was a little bit more critical, like that doesn't necessarily mean that I think that's a bad video. I definitely don't think it's a bad video. The reason I wanted to talk about it was because I thought it was really, she did a great job of being very open and honest. my thing, and maybe I'm sure a lot of people think that I'm over the top and like I'm too careful, but it's really important to me that I don't ever come across as thinking of myself as an expert about something when I'm not, and so that's why I don't ever try and give like too much advice, especially about this. Like, this stuff is very serious, okay? Like, and it's serious to me because, dude, it freaking took over my life for a few years. All right? And like, it really destroyed a lot of stuff. And so I really don't want people to ever watch a YouTube video and think to themselves, well, they were able to fix it so easily and quickly. And it was so like, oh, bam, bam, bam. Why can't I do that? The reason is because it's freaking hard, man. Like, and it really does, it completely uproots your life sometimes. And so I just try and make it very clear, like, again, these are things that worked for me. Those were things that worked for her. If it doesn't work for you, that doesn't even make you weird. That makes you very normal because we're all very different, And again, I think this is a great video, and I think she makes great videos, and I appreciate her sharing this. And so me disagreeing with some of the points, hopefully people don't see that as me being like, oh, I disagree. I think she makes great videos, and I would suggest you guys go watch her, go subscribe. Like, she's obviously being very transparent and real. It's just important for me, I have this big platform, that I don't make it seem like, oh, just figure this stuff out, and it's super simple, It's freaking hard. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to be smart with the platform that I have, and with the information that gets out there because of the platform. That's all it is. And so hopefully that makes sense.